Change that part of it. Because I thought I changed it to like, so I don't know if the top right now. Which like just kind of annoying for a lot of time. It's like no one's gonna read it. Yeah.
Dr. Chen, you want to join us? Stand over here for one. Sandwich board here. Good morning, everybody. All set? Good morning. We're here this morning to announce the state of Connecticut has commenced a lawsuit and an investigation and a number of additional actions to protect people from the unlawful sale of untested, unsafe, illegal, unapproved bootleg weight loss products, otherwise known as or GLP-1 injectable weight loss drugs, also referred to commonly by their branded names, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound. So let me take a step back and remind everybody we have a system in this country where if you need prescription medication, you need to go to your doctor. And you get off, you get a prescription, and then fill that prescription at your local pharmacy. For many drugs, particularly prescription-grade drugs, we do this because we want to keep people safe. Because these are heavy-duty pharmaceuticals, there are risks of misadministration, there are risks of error, there are risks of mixing one with another in a particular patient. So there are all these issues, and you have this system works, and I'll acknowledge in a broken healthcare system, but the system that works is that you go to your doctor and you get a prescription. Actually, this morning, I went to the doctor at 8:30, he saw me at the last minute, and I got a prescription. After this is over, I'm going to go to CVS to get my prescription. And I'm confident in the safety and efficacy of that medication. of a rigorous process that goes through the FDA and that goes through multiple rounds of testing and peer review, and we get to the point where there are, in most cases, a branded drug, and we're talking about what is commonly known as Unsafe or Mounjaro, and you get through the process. At the end of the process, you can access this branded drug. After a certain amount of time, often a very long time, there can be generic forms of prescription medication. And as you may know, our office, I'm very involved in generic drug industry, accountable for price fixing for all of us. And it's all part of the system to administer medicine, healthcare, and to keep people sick. Unfortunately, today there is a rash, pervasive use of unsafe, untested products that are marketed directly to consumers. And the first type of product that I want to talk about are so-called research-grade GLP-1 that are sold directly to consumers by companies like Trigger Brands. And we are suing Trigger Brands today because of the misrepresentations and deceptions that they are telling to people in Connecticut to get them to buy these research-grade GLP-1s. I'm looking at one right now, right? So Kate Hagney towards me is in our consumer protection section. She's one of our lead consumer protection lawyers. Thank you for your hard work, Kate. And she's also my GLP-1 model today. And so this is an actual bootleg research-grade GLP-1 that, so how does this work? Basically, a company like Trip Brand says, these are for research only. So they go through the perfunctory process of saying on their website, this is for research only, except they sell direct to consumers. And this doesn't look like this is for a lab. This clearly looks like, and it's presented as something, it says, you are awesome. We appreciate you. What would a lab need for that life-affirming message? They don't. Okay? This is direct-to-consumer sales of pharmaceutical-grade medication that you then have to, I think there's a powder, and then there's some instructions, and you mix it at home, and you inject it at home. And so, take a step back. If somebody said to you that you're going to take serious medication, and the way you do it is you just buy it offline from whoever, and they send some powder, and you mix it up, and then you inject it yourself, you would say they're nuts. That is a totally unsafe practice. Well, that's what's happening every day with these GLP-1s, which is why we're suing Triggered Brands, because of its social media marketing, and because it targets consumers here in Connecticut. This is an actual example, and they face civil penalties up to $5,000 per violation. Okay? And so per violation could be many, many violations of them selling to people in Connecticut. Those numbers will add up very quickly. The second category are compounded weight loss drugs. And this is a phenomenon in the market. I should also note, by the way, before I move on to that we are also serving a subpoena, a civil investigative demand today, on a company called Made in China, which I think is second only to Alibaba in size. And they're selling research-grade GLP-1s directly to people, to consumers in the United States. And on their marketplace, on their online marketplace, they're freely advertising various medications that they refer to by their I guess, scientific name, semaglutides, tirzepatides, and other GLP-1 inhibitors, which is what these are, and they're marketing them directly to consumers. The second thing that we're doing today is making it clear, particularly to people across Connecticut, that operate clinics and spas, that they can no longer sell GLP-1s through compounding or compounding pharmacies. What does that mean? So normally in America, we also have a system that is part of the see a doctor, get a prescription, go to your pharmacy system, where if you have particular specific needs to you as a person, there are certain counterindications between medication. You can take one thing but not the other. You have certain conditions. I'm getting over my skis, doctor. But you have certain conditions that require you to be careful about what you take and in what combination. Compounding pharmacies exist for that purpose. Compounding pharmacies are there to make sure that we can personalize healthcare and medication for people that need it. And in the normal course, that can be a normal and effective way to provide healthcare. The trouble is that these retailers and retail sellers and spas and med spas and clinics in Connecticut have exploited the compounding GLP-1s directly to consumers. There was a mechanism where there was a shortage of GLP-1s or shortage of these medications, and because of that shortage, they were able to sell these products through compounding pharmacies. That is no longer the case. And so as a result, and by the way, the federal government is also taking action, the FDA is also taking action. I believe that whatever period of time there was for the shortage, that has expired, or whatever grace period there was, that has expired. And so the final drop-in day is tomorrow, I believe. And so you cannot sell these products through compounding pharmacies, and we want to make it clear across Connecticut to med spas, and to clinics, and to online retailers that to do so is unlawful. And so we are sending letters to weight loss clinics across Connecticut, and what we're really concerned about with compounding is that there's evidence of adverse reactions, sometimes requiring medical intervention. There's a lot of health and safety concerns connected with compounding weight loss drugs, including dosing errors and spotty inspection records of overseas factories. Lots of challenges with compounding that put people at risk. We have here, by the way, a board here that shows some of the advertising that goes direct to consumers, some of examples of marketing based on compounding, right? And then selling of the raw powder or research grade GLP-1s to people here in Connecticut and across the country. Before we hear from Commissioner Caparelli and Dr. Alyssa Chen from the Yale School of Medicine, let me just say that I know that GLP-1s, that these drugs, the branded versions of these drugs, particularly Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, have been pretty effective for a lot of people. And I also understand that it's not covered for everybody or in the same amount by health insurance. I understand these drugs are very expensive. Some people have reported that it has changed their lives, and I get that. And we want people to be able to access medication if it's appropriate for them and prescribed by their doctor, and to do things that are important for their long-term health. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is people being put at risk. And I have a problem with illegal conduct and activity that is undertaken, sometimes by overseas actors, without regard for the safety of people here in Connecticut. Yes, our healthcare system is severely challenged, if not broken. Yes, A lot of drugs are way too expensive. That's why we've sued the generic drug manufacturers across the country. That's why I've taken such strong action in the opioid and addiction crisis against the big pharmaceutical companies. Nobody in this office is afraid of taking on those powerful interests. And nobody here is standing up for those companies. They can take care of themselves. But what we're concerned about is, all of us see it, how pervasive the marketing is and how much risk people face when they go online and they order prescription medication, they mix up and inject at home. And that on its face, and that, as I describe it, should give everybody pause here in Connecticut. So my message, by the way, because these letters are going out to weight loss clinics and med spas, is there's no loophole. Compounding does not give you a backdoor. There's no loophole. I understand it may be part of your business, and you may make less money, or you may even go out of business. That is not my concern. You shouldn't build a business based on illegal activity and a gray area that existed. Let's call it that until now. It is illegal in the state of Connecticut to sell unprescribed, untested, illegal bootleg GLP-1 inhibitor compound or otherwise non-prescribed weight loss products. There is no generic form of these products. Let me say that again. There is no generic form of Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, or Zepbound. I don't care what anybody tells you. And so, if you use these products, stop. Go see a doctor and get a prescription. If you are selling these products, stop. And if you don't, we're going to come after you and shut you down. And there are serious fines and penalties associated with that. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Protection, Brian Kemper.
Thank you very much. I can see why that's not wearing the eye.
I know.
Mine's a little bigger, but anyway, thank you very much for Attorney General Tong for hosting us, Dr. Chen for joining us, Kate for the work that you do, and sharing all of your expertise today. As the Attorney General noted, many people are turning to the GLP-1s to kickstart a healthier life. And as the Attorney General acknowledged, there is some value in that, but it needs to be done correctly. And it's critical that it's only done under the supervision of a doctor with a prescription, and you only obtain these drugs through a legitimate and licensed pharmacy. Medications sold through these online providers without a prescription are dangerous. They can contain substances other than what you believe you are getting. Taking any medication purchased through an unknown, unlicensed retailer is dangerous. It can result in significant health problems, overdoses, and complications. Companies who advertise or bootleg counterfeit medications as safe are taking advantage, as the Attorney General pointed out, of these products that are in high demand without any consideration for your health and safety. The DCP regulates everyone involved in the distribution of all legal drugs. Connecticut sees the Connecticut licensing for pharmacies, pharmacists, controlled substance providers, laboratories, pharmacy technicians, manufacturers, and wholesalers of drugs. And the safest and the only legal way to obtain a prescription for GLP-1 medications is through a consultation with your doctor and a licensed pharmacist and getting that prescription filled at a licensed pharmacy, period. We know that the demand for this medication is high. Costs can be expensive, but it is critical not to take these shortcuts. As the Attorney General noted, there are no generic alternatives. If you do this, it will be a significant threat to your health and safety, and it can cause more health problems. Pharmacists go through years of training. They ensure that the medications you receive are compounded correctly and appropriately, and that you're using the prescribed dose, and they contain exactly what is advertised. Research-grade GLP-1 is not approved by the FDA for human or veterinary use. Any business or advertising or selling these research-grade drugs is misleading consumers. So in 2021 and 2023, respectively, the FDA has approved drugs, most commonly known as Wegovy and Zepbound for chronic weight management. And these inhibitors administered as injections, they help regulate blood sugar and appetite. And they have peptides known as, I'm not going to get them right as you did, you probably practiced a little more, semaglutide, and the active ingredient Zepbound is the peptide trizepatide. The reason I note these is because you will see these on websites and they're listing them to make them more commonly known so people get comfortable and think that there is a generic alternative. There is not. It is illegal to sell GLP-1 for human injection without a pharmacist's license and a prescription identifying the individual patient. So things like this that you see are illegal. You shouldn't be taking them. You don't know what's in them, and they will hurt you. There are no comparable standards that allow companies to sell raw peptides. The bootleg products have been found to contain impurities, including possible bacterial contamination. When the Attorney General talks about compounding, there are very strict regulations that oversee the compounding pharmacies. If they get it wrong, you're injecting things into your body that will be very bad for you, including bacterial materials. Research compounded drugs are typically manufactured overseas under standards that are not meant for human consumption. These products are untested, unregulated. I know it's been said before, but I cannot stress it enough. You don't know what you're getting. You need to see a doctor, and you need to have it filled through a licensed pharmacist at a pharmacy. Again, I want to thank the Attorney General for this important matter to our attention. I appreciate the relationship that we have, always working together in your leadership of matters like this. To Dr. Chen for joining us in this range, and for all of you for covering this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Alyssa Chen from the
My name is Alyssa Chen, and I'm a primary care doctor, obesity medicine specialist, and researcher at the Yale School of Medicine. Thank you, Attorney General Tong, for inviting me to talk about my research and how compounded medications for obesity have impacted my patients. As a primary care doctor, I witness patients struggling with the impacts of obesity every day, ranging from pain, diabetes, heart attacks. New obesity medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are an amazing treatment for my patients that can provide not only improvements in their health, but also drastic quality of life improvements. However, because manufacturers of these medications have set them at very high prices and many insurers don't cover them, these innovative, life-changing medications are simply inaccessible to my patients. Shortages of Wegovy and Zepbound have allowed compounding pharmacies to manufacture compounded versions of these medications. These copycat medications do not go any review by the FDA to ensure they work or are safe. Faced with paying hundreds to thousands of dollars for Wegovy or Zepbound, it's no surprise that patients turn to these medications instead of Wegovy and Zepbound. They're advertised all over the internet, they're cheaper than Wegovy and Zepbound, and they tout benefits beyond what Wegovy and Zepbound advertise. But what might seem like a simple alternative can be dangerous. Our clinic saw a 67-year-old patient who turned to compounded semaglutide after her insurance stopped covering Wegovy. She took the medication that was sent to her, which was incorrectly dosed too high, and then had to be admitted to the hospital for severe vomiting and dehydration. Compounding pharmacies also have advertising practices that mislead patients and make inappropriate claims about their benefits. My research team and I, including Asha, the medical student who's here with me today, surveyed 79 websites selling compounded medications. And of those websites, most of them did not require contact with a clinician, neither via telehealth nor in person. Websites often did not clearly state that compounded medications are not FDA approved. Some websites fail to describe important safety considerations of these medications. And 40% of websites make claims of benefits that have not been proven, like improving hair growth. These findings are alarming. Patients seeking out compounded medications may be inadequately monitored and and informed. This results in vulnerable patients paying for medications that may or may not be safe or effective for them. We absolutely need medications to treat obesity. However, medications should have known benefits and risks which are accurately described to patients. They must also be affordable. It should not be a privilege to have obesity treatment. I can tell my patients about the risks of compounded medications, but I can only do so much to ensure that patients are protected from misinformation and harms. Therefore, I greatly appreciate the efforts of the Office of the Attorney General to protect vulnerable patients in Connecticut from questionable practices undertaken by compounding pharmacies.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me just recognize our team. Dr. Chen recognized Yale Medical student Ashley Che. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. Thank you, Commissioner, for your team. You've met Kate, our wonderful blue light product model today. And then also paralegal specialist Casey Ryback for her extraordinary work in all of this. And with that, I'll take questions.
Are some of these sources coming from inside Connecticut, or is this national?
Yeah, it's all of it. But there are clinics and med spas in Connecticut that provide this medication. Hopefully they're heeding our guidance, and what the FDA is saying that they're stopping the sale of these products, but we see it all over Connecticut. It's obviously a national phenomenon, and I don't know about sale internationally, but a lot of these products come from overseas. And we don't know what we're getting. We don't know what people are getting. We don't know what they're putting in their bodies. Literally, they're injecting it into their bodies without medical supervision.
Is there, sorry, just trying to clarify, is there a difference between research grade and compounded drugs, and what is that?
So I'll say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't know, first of all, what's in these products. This is what they say, that research grade are the raw form of these peptides. And then when you mix them up at home, you can inject them in your body. Wrong, you can't. We don't know what raw form they're providing. Compounding, as I said, is a normal process, but it doesn't have the same, it's not the same process, and it's not the same controls as the doctor prescribing you medication process. It requires consultation with a doctor who then prescribes through a compounding pharmacy compounded medication. But as Dr. Chen said, it is not then subject to sort of reevaluation by the FDA. They just do it. And even if that's okay, compounding at scale, meaning it's personalized, but for everybody, it's not personalized at all. And so compounding for scale is not consistent with the whole point of compounding. And so what has come about is really a black market for these drugs. And the reason why we're here today is because it's everywhere. It's so pervasive. You can't stream at night without seeing, when you're watching your favorite binge program, you can't not see ads for these products. And they look like they're okay. Because of course it's okay. It's on TV, seems very official. People buy it.
Yeah, what is within the purview legally of the state of Connecticut to regulate those giant online companies? I mean, I've seen ads for them on Metro North.
So the commissioner has his frontline authority over all medication here in the state. I'll ask him to add if he wants to.
All
But
medication, distributed to
people in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
And then we have broad deadlock consumer protection authority. When we're here, very often we're talking about our ability to stop people from deceiving people, making misrepresentations about products and lying to them about the safety or the legality of products that they're using. Want to add anything?
This is for Dr. Chen. Are there a lot of cases? You mentioned one person who wound up in the hospital. Are we finding a lot of cases like that across the country?
I think it's hard to quantify because many, like we described, people are getting these medications without talking to their doctor, so often their doctors have no idea if they're taking these medicines. And so it might be someone who has a primary care doctor, but went around them to get these medications, or people who just don't see doctors at all, who are ending up in the hospital. The challenges we've had with research is like this is not very well tracked. And so the main mechanism by which we're learning about this is people reporting it to the FDA. But even with normal medications, like with Zepbound, things are insufficient to the FDA.
Yeah, frankly, it occurs to me that they're like ghost meds. You know, I've talked about ghost guns, being ordered over the internet and making the firearms. These are ghost meds. And so we don't have a good way of tracking people who buy them direct to consumer on the internet.
Can you talk a little bit more about the research of the websites? I think that's super interesting in terms of practices.
Are there particular pieces you're interested in? Because I covered the highlights of them. I mean, really, like what we're finding. So we like went on Google essentially and looked for all the available websites we could find, which came out to 79. And some of them are the ones that we've seen on the Metro North, Curtis as an Unapproved. And what we were trying to understand is what is the advertising that patients are seeing? Because as a physician, I want to know, like, how are these being marketed to my patients? What are the kind of patients looking for? And are they told of the risks of these medicines? And it's somewhat inconsistent how they're advertised. Sometimes they're saying they're compounded. Sometimes they qualify the fact that they're compounded. They may, like the Attorney General, which is saying this is generic, Wegovy, which we know they're generic versions. Some of them, many of them say they're accredited by a body that's called legit scripts. The patients don't know what to do with that information, like what does that mean to them. But I think for me as a physician, the biggest thing is they don't have to teach them. Like sometimes it's just chatting, like
Even if
chat
they
bot.
need a prescription.
Even if they need a prescription, it's not, they're not talking to the clinician. Most of that, there's the chatting. That's the.
Here's some examples of this,
Yeah.
on this board here. Any other questions?
What do you make of Health and Human Services announcement that they want to regulate drug prices by raising if there is no generic version, companies have to charge whatever the lowest price
Yeah,
is.
the most favored nation
Yeah.
construct. Industry. I should note that we have a temporary restraining order from stopping Health and Human Services from cutting $175 million in public health funding for so frankly, that's what I'm focused on with respect to HHS, is protecting Connecticut and those huge draconian cuts to be aware in Connecticut. But you know, if Washington can find a way to drive down prices, have at it. I haven't seen it yet.
This might start going to off topic, but is the Trump administration heeding any of the injunctions and various
Yes.
court orders?
Yes, and they're also not obeying some of them. So we've been largely successful in the 20-something cases we're in. There's been many more that have been filed by other parties. And in most of those cases, we have some kind of injunction. And in most of those cases, there's compliance. But there are some places, for example, you all know about what's happened with immigration. People being shipped out unlawfully to places like South Sudan and Secot in El Salvador. There's non-compliance right now. Anything else? All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.